into the next topic here, or into the first topic. So we got a lot to talk about. First thing we're going to be talking about today is Satya Nadella. I made a video about this on Friday, and him talking about competition. As we know, Sony, they don't really seem to want to stand for competition right now. They're probably they're doing whatever they can to kind of make sure that this deal doesn't go through. We know with the CMA, they're looking further into it, and one of the main causes for that, stemming all the way back from when we saw the documents come out from the Brazilian authority and committee, is them saying that it's going to be hard for companies to compete, for them to compete, to make a competitor to Call of Duty. And Satya Nadella pretty much just kind of called their bluff in this interview with Bloomberg. It was in a video as well. And he says this: of course, any acquisition of this size will go through scrutiny, but we feel very, very confident that will come out. I mean, he's the head, the CEO of Microsoft. I would hope that he believes that. So, and then he says, if you want to compete, let's compete. Pretty much saying to PlayStation, listen, you guys have been at the top for a long time now. You guys have had Call of Duty for a marketing deal since 2015. They've made you the most amount of money on your platform. And now we're going to be getting all of that. We're going to be getting the marketing. People are going to start thinking about Xbox when it comes to Call of Duty, which is going to be huge for them. And you're going to have to compete with this one way or another, whether that's making your own game, whether that is going out, I guess, making other deals to try to compete in terms of getting good first-person shooters on the platform that people want to play. But trying to stop this deal isn't competing. It's pretty much being afraid of competing with an up-and-coming, I guess, platform since the Xbox One, since they kind of blew that launch. And let's compete. I mean, that's the way I see it. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about PlayStation trying to block the deal, first of all? And what do you think about Nadella pretty much smiling and calling their bluff and his confidence in doing that?
Yeah, well, in a way, I do understand why PlayStation, of course, they don't want this deal to go through because Call of Duty is their biggest moneymaker. And, they 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 must know something that we don't know, or at least they should know more than we know, so they know how much financially this is going to hurt them. And I think that I think the problem I have with this is the way Jim Ryan has expressed himself about the the whole acquisition, where he's putting his studios, like he's basically throwing them aside and telling the public and telling everyone that his studios, which everyone considered to be these huge AAA studios that make some of the best games, which I agree, that they cannot make anything even close to Call of Duty, which to me it's even if this is true, if they can't make a game like this, I don't know if that's something like that you would want to like tell them. Like that's like if you have a company and you have your employees that you say they do great work, but then you see another company that they they have employees that do great, and you're like, none of my employees can do none of this work. I don't think they can do it. And you're saying it like to the public where they are listening to this. Like how are they gonna feel about this? Like that's something I'm curious about too.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's a great point. If you're working in one of their studios, you're sitting there and your boss is pretty much saying that he doesn't believe in you. And then you have to go to
yes,
work the next day and still make their games. I mean, like, I don't know. That's like, as a leader, it seems not the way to go. It almost seems like the more that he talks, the more the PlayStation is talking about this deal, I think it's giving them bad PR in general. I was thinking about this just today, and I was like, the PlayStation, like if you look at PlayStation, what they've been doing, you got to give it to them, and their marketing, first of all, is on point. It's been on point for a really long time. The way they've been able to build up a loyal fan base has been absolutely incredible. You have fans now that will literally go out of their way to pay more money for some of their products and some of their games. But if you look at the Xbox One and PS4 generation, the Xbox One really started off bad. And I would say up until 2017, when Phil Spencer took over really and started trying to expand Xbox with like the One X and then Game Pass and eventually Xbox Cloud Gaming. Xbox had they pretty much threw in the towel right from the start of the Xbox One generation. And if you're somebody who doesn't really follow gaming that hard, you probably are looking at gaming right now and you're still thinking that PlayStation is like the place to play and all that type of stuff. And now Jim Ryan's kind of just outing themselves, making people who probably don't pay attention that much to the video game industry, making these comments that are going to go to more mainstream. Like it's going to go to like all the like finance websites, going to go to like all the investors and all that type of stuff, right? And you're starting to see kind of just like the anti-consumer side of PlayStation, when they could have literally just been not said anything, try to compete. Once this deal went through, they have Killzone, they have Resistance. Those were two huge games on like the PS3, PS4, PS3 for Resistance, but there's mainly PS3, and they could have taken something, tried to build that up, and tried to compete, but instead they're going this route, which I think is kind of hurting them in the long run. And I think people are going to start to really see what PlayStation has been doing, look further into it, and then hey, maybe like switch to Xbox just because of some of the stuff that's coming out from this. I don't know. Do you think that? Do you agree with that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like adding to that, I think the problem with PlayStation, I think they were caught pretty off guard because the thing is, Xbox is they're like they're competing with them, but they're competing with them in an entirely different like method, which is completely different to what gaming is accustomed to. You know, usually like even from the get go, like I saw things that were kind of like extremely different, where people were like criticizing Sony, and I was like, you know, in a way, it's something that, for example, the controllers, for example, usually when you get a new console, you don't think about using your old controllers on your new console.
Yeah.
But Xbox did it because they're doing it, you know, the friendly way and the friendly approach and the whole ecosystem. And people are like, wait a minute, so I don't have to spend more money on extra controllers. This is great. So they're like, why isn't PlayStation doing it? And you know, and they were caught off guard with a lot of things like this, and then the whole ecosystem with the cloud, with Game Pass, and that's something that's entirely different. That's no one was like this is not usual for gaming, and
Yeah.
that caught them off guard for me.
Yeah. I mean, this is this the first generation where they have backwards compatible peripherals? I guess like with the Nintendo Wii, you could use like a GameCube controller, but like they also had their own controllers, right?
Yeah.
But I guess of the series, they also had their own controllers, but they're essentially just the Xbox One controllers with slight variations. I feel like this is the first real console where they really embrace that backwards compatibility, knowing how many controllers people have at home already from previous generations or from the Xbox One.
Yeah, and not only that, like you can use your new controllers on your older cons.
Oh, honestly, I didn't even think about that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I haven't booted up my Xbox One since the series. So yeah, never tried that. But that I actually didn't even know that. That's actually a really good thing. I guess that
yeah.
makes sense because they're trying to push the new products that come out, and there's
The
still a
new
lot of
product.
people that have
Yeah.
Xbox One.
And then the thing is, like for example, let's say you have a gaming room where that's where you have your Series X, but then in the living room you have an old Xbox One. Then you can just switch around the controller, which is pretty easy to just sync them up, and you can travel around the rooms, and that's something that's great from the Xbox ecosystem. You can go anywhere they're advertising.
Yeah, and they continuously expanding out to more products, like with the I know this isn't a controller, but the Logitech G Cloud
Oh
handheld
yeah,
thing. They're continuously doing more stuff like that. And when it comes to controllers, so like I have my DualSense here. Okay, like honestly, very nice controller, feels good. I like it. It's not bad. I have no real gripes against the DualSense. But I was playing like last weekend. I was playing Call of Duty, and all of the things that they sell this controller on, like the haptics and the adaptive triggers and stuff, I turned all that stuff off playing Call of Duty. Like it really like hurt the experience. So there's little things like that too, where I don't know.
yeah,
Sometimes it's good to innovate on stuff like this, But then sometimes it's like innovating for just to innovate when you already have a perfect product is going to make the experience worse. And I think like the Xbox controller, in my opinion, since the 360, and even since like honestly the S type on the OG Xbox. I don't know if you remember that one. Like that, the ergonomics they had going with that, with like the analog sticks not lined up and stuff, has been the perfect controller for me. So I don't really want them to change too much with it, but yeah, it's just like looking at a consumer friendly company making all these consumer friendly moves, and then a company who's just kind of trying to stay the course, even though there is a lot of resistance from the industry as a whole, and then doing stuff like this and coming out and